Welcome back to a beautiful nation in crisis. And I'm going to just go straight to the point, Dr. Kem. We've been discussing all of the energy solutions. We still have not yet finalized as to South Africa's current load shedding. And what should the decision makers be told to do in order to solve the energy crisis?
Well, I think we have to now look at two different time frames. We have no option. We would look at what do we do for the next year or two, and that's a snag. Then we've got to say we cannot afford to keep this state of affairs going for the next 5 to 10 years. So we have to look at 5 to 10 years from now if we want the country to grow and we want the population to get an improved standard of living. So that's the one thing, and that is to start now building the nuclear power stations and also to plan for another big coal-fired power station. The answer is coal in the north and nuclear in the south as the foundation for the growth of the nation. I'd like to point out, by the way, that Zambia earlier this year signed to build their first 10 megawatt nuclear reactor for training purposes. There's an entire nuclear training institute they're building, the Center for Nuclear Science and Technology. Uganda, Kenya, Nigeria, Rwanda, and others have indicated that they're planning a nuclear future. Now, if all of those fellows are planning a nuclear future, are they wrong, or are they thinking the building of their country? I sat and I had a meeting with the Zambian Minister of Energy and the Zambian Permanent Secretary of Education, under whom this training falls at the moment. And he said to me dramatically, he said, "We are building our country. We're looking to the future."
This reminds me very quickly,
that
actually.
is such a nice attitude to have.
This reminds me quickly. We always plan to build, but we are the last to do it.
Yes.
I mean, think about the power stations that by now, the last 23 years, we could have built brand new power stations. In the last 23 years, if my memory serves me right, we've only built 3 power stations, brand new ones, which means every 7 odd years, we're building 1 power station, which is not really acceptable. In your view, what should we do to solve the energy crisis today?
Well, if I may just put it in layman's term, I think let's first ask ourselves where have problems in the system have come in. Fix those problems. Agree that our ESCOM machines are all operating at their highest efficiency. And look at obviously the independent power producers if there's a need to assist here and there, but they can go and sell independently wherever they can go. Once we've done that, we now know that, okay, the capacity that we have, we're managing it very well, and everything is working very well. And we plan for the future to say the economy is going to grow. What will take us there? And that is when we're going to talk about the mix of base load and the mix of intermittent solutions. So definitely nuclear and coal is very much part of this solution for this country.
Yes. Now, Lufuno, coming back on this one. Power plants in South Africa, either IPP based or ESCOM driven, are always focused on where the source is of the coal, in terms of nuclear where the water is. In terms of IPPs, they are always more on the aspect of where there's more wind or there's more sun. But yet we have communities in South Africa, townships, as well as squatter communities that don't have electricity today. And for the next 5 years to 10 years, those squatter communities will not have electricity. Why don't we see power plants being built, even independent power plants, being built next to the community that does not have electricity, and they can quickly put up that independent power plant?
Yeah. You see, there's uninformed fear that we are immediately running short of coal, which is not the truth. We still have 3 to 4 generations.
Of coal.
Yeah, currently assumed. There's still what we don't know, there's still what is not discovered. So I'm saying we have to combine short-term solutions together with long-term solutions.
Yes.
And short-term immediate solution is run into the drive of maintenance like never before. Why did you neglect it at first place? You are stuck with a car that you know that you haven't serviced for 6 years.
Yes.
And you know that the solution is just to get back and service this car and run it in the meantime. Then bring in the idea of, you see the issue of saying nuclear is expensive. I think we've got a case study that we can use. Quebec is there.
Mm.
Let's take the cost of Quebec. Obviously, escalate them to where we are now. Incorporate new technologies. You are able to decide informedly so, and maybe cut this into manageable packages.
Mm.
Do this piece, measure the demand, and then if need arises again, project, go do another a portion of it. You see, when we speak, I think we've got a tendency of missing cost estimates because everybody's an expert in our country. Everybody will tell us this figure. The other one will tell us that
The
figure.
Google expert.
No, let's take the existing done work. You don't even have to do too much guesses. It's done. What are the new differences? What are the variances between then and now? Do we have new technologies? How long do we want to build? For how long do we want to use? And then we are able to determine what interest are we going to pay for how long. You see, you can't take a nuclear, 3 power stations, build them at once, boom, and you say you are done with this thing. No. Medupi has been initially estimated at 20 billion. The current expenditure of Medupi is 135 billion. Projection not finished yet. The possibility is that you are still going to run it over 135 billion. So I'm saying, why don't we sit down, use past experiences, historical information is there, not from even other countries, our very own country. And we engage, because I think also what also put the issue of nuclear energy out of context is the president who was sitting at the time. We assumed everything negative. And I'm not trying to say anything to differ from that.
No,
Don't
it's not
apologize.
knowledge.
Yes, the fact that the man was sitting there by ideas and what we hear, hell-bent to eat everywhere. Then we said, oh, this nuclear thing is the idea of this man to consume more. But I'm saying let's jump into the facts. Let's take what is done, assume from there, build in the variances, then we are able to build an informed case study.
You know, I would like to follow up from what he said. He said some very sensible things. One thing we need is South African self-confidence. Us South Africans are good. We know what we're doing. We're some of the best in the world at some of the
But
things
we're in
we
a
do.
recession. I mean,
No. Well, yes, we're technically recession. What I'm saying is we're good. And part of these cost overruns, and what's happening is we keep thinking we need somebody from another country to come and tell us what to do. I've heard lots of stories out of Medupi and Kusile where they sit around waiting for the foreign consultants to come in. Then our local people say, but we're better than them. We knew that all along. We built Coburg. 40 years ago, South Africans built Coburg. It wasn't French people driving the trucks. It wasn't French people pouring the coal. It was us. We designed these coal-fired power stations, South African designs. Why do we have to bring foreigners in to try and tell us how to do it? I had a case the other day, 2 different countries in Europe spoke to me and said they're interested in taking black South African nuclear welders to Europe on contract because our guys are so good, they want them in working in Europe. These are high grade welders. They want to come here and take our black welders there. Now, it's not the other way around. We keep thinking we need their welders to teach us. We don't. We're good. Where we want certain things, we can go and ask for it. Now, these cost overruns, a lot of it is falling over our own feet. It shouldn't really be there. We built
how do you
Coburg on
prevent
time.
cost overruns?
We built Coburg on time, on budget. Part of it is self-confidence.
Yeah.
And as he very correctly says, and as was said over there, right now, fix Eskom. Let Eskom run itself virtually. You know, a number of years ago, Eskom was voted by the international community as the best electricity utility in the world.
Made money.
It was one then, I think still is, one of the 5 biggest electricity utilities in the world. It's packed with good engineers, good foremen, good people who know what they're doing. They must be told, run the power station. Not you must buy solar and wind, and when you buy solar and wind, you ought to run the coal down, and you got to do this. That's where the interference is coming. Let the Eskom guys run Eskom in the short term, because that, as has been indicated, that's our only immediate source of reliable electricity. If we're going to be running out of electricity
So
next year,
maintain plants,
yes,
have good engineers,
The
make
coal
sure
is
that
there.
the coal is available,
yes,
make sure that the plant is managed properly by
That's
really
right.
well-trained and qualified people.
Yeah.
that's right.
But we still have load shedding.
I want to
How do we solve that problem?
Because
now?
right now we've got maintenance problems and all sorts of things because people are falling over each other's feet. That must be stopped.
Just quickly, I want to talk about the cost overruns. How do you stop them? But before I go there, I'm going to reiterate again. If you want to get rid of load shedding, run Eskom at its best maximum capacity. You will not have load shedding at all.
Yes.
Okay.
In terms of cost overruns, it may be weak, but I think let's appreciate the evolvement of technologies. The fact that today you can sit and communicate with people on your cell phone. We didn't have these things 10 years ago. You can talk to people without uttering a word, just by WhatsApp. We have an active citizenship now, where we hold these politicians to account. Let's accept that the likes of Medupe and Gusiles, when they happened, there was a lot of people who wanted to get money. Let's ask ourselves, how much of it is attributed to the technical faults? As an example, if you found that cost from Medupe that has gone from 30 billion rand to 133 billion, and maybe because of technical fault is an additional 20, therefore Medupe should have been finished at 50. Let's then accept that
Why
we'll
can't we
never
hold the contractors accountable? I mean, these are paid contractors.
That is because there was these relationships, strange relationships between those who give contracts and the contractors themselves. Again, we didn't have access to this. So going forward, we will say never again someone is going to sign a contract that keeps on going and it just never stops. So that's why I'm saying...
So there was no corruption. There was just an agreement that keep billing us as much as you want.
A lot of Medupe and Gusile, what comes out is that it was very much open-ended contracts where the guys, the contractor and the owner, they sit side by side. If he says to him, now I need extra whatever thing, and this guy just approves. So your guy is building for you. He says he needs to increase the scope. You agree. So what kind of a contract? This contract, the way it was signed in such a way that, you know what?
It's open-ended.
It's open-ended. It's all about finishing the job, but it's not about holding him to say, no, you're going to finish by.
I think the whole system needs what I call a talking of the bolts. We need to go around to every single bolt in this piece of machinery and make sure it's tight and doing what it's there to do. Fastening the system. It's the whole supply chain at Eskom.
Yeah.
If we get good quality coal, clean coal, delivered on time, kept dry,
everything,
boilers maintained, every genset, every part of the transmission monitored from the distribution, that's our only hope for. We talked about an immediate plan and then maybe a 5 and then a 10-year plan. But right now, to stop load shedding and get Eskom to where it needs to be at operating at its total capacity, we've got to go to every single part of the value chain and say, is this being done as best it can be?
And self-confidence. We know what we're doing if we get the right guys running the show properly. I can